Hi, and welcome to the Intellectual Adventure Podcast. Today, we're here with a guest, Stephen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Cameron, how are you?
I'm doing well myself. We're here to have a good discussion on some of the economics around the business you do and how the struggle or challenge of learning that education to get into the field of today can be. So, Stephen, I'm looking forward to talking about your business, and I'm keeping it a little bit of a surprise right now until we dive into that portion because I think it's a unique perspective for people to hear, especially those that are a little less familiar with that side of the industry.
Sure.
I want to start with some things that you'd like to introduce about yourself.
Excellent. Well, thank you, and I appreciate you having me on the show today. Like you said, I'm Stephen Caldwell. I am the creator and the founder of the first ever crispy shredded filled hash brown bite in the world. It is branded Stuffed Tots. And my wife Lori and I actually hold a U.S. patent on a filled potato. But I'm going to start
Awesome.
way before then. Fun fact about me: I've been a pseudo chef and foodie since the age of 5, and it's been a journey of food inspiration, exploration, if you will, in the kitchen, as well as different parts of my entrepreneurial journey throughout my life, taking me to different parts of the country as well as different parts of the world to eat cultural experiences in culinary that I just would have never had the experience had I not taken all these chances. And they all weren't successful chances, but nonetheless, I've been a serial entrepreneur and a foodie my whole life. And just about 8 years ago is when I finally took the leap to actually follow my food passion at the age of 52. I'm now 60. But it has been a journey. And the fun facts are that everything has been tied to food. I grew up in the auto industry with my father at the age of 9. I started working for him at a car dealership in Yakima, Washington, washing cars. And then I did a little stint at the age of 14. I started a band when I was 11, a little rock and roll band. And I was always in it for the entrepreneurial journey, meaning, I guess you could call it a little capitalism. I enjoyed performing. I had a group that played top 40 cover songs for dances and weddings and school reunions. And then I was tapped to go on to a larger group that toured nationally and into Canada. And I actually graduated high school 2 years early by taking multiple amounts of classes during the day and at night for almost a year and a half to be able to get my diploma at the age of 16. Wrote a business plan to my mom and dad and let them know that this was a journey I wanted to take. And I made money doing it as well. We were in a tour bus and recorded an album. And then that ended when I was 18. I had had enough of that, and it was a great experience. I used that money and I started buying rental homes at the age of 17. And then I started selling cars for my dad, and the car business became quite successful in that arena. I only sold for 2 months. I told him I don't even know what I'm doing. I said, well, how do you sell cars? And he goes, you just talk to everybody. So I did. I knew I was none the wiser. And the first month I sold 40. The second month I sold 44 cars. And the next month he promoted me to finance manager. And so at the age of 19, I'm his finance manager, the guy in the car dealership that does all the contracts and the paperwork and the banking and the and all that stuff, monthly payments for the customers.
And I take it this was in a fairly urban area where you were
It
doing these car
was.
sales.
This is in Yakima, Washington, yeah, and actually
Hmm.
Toppenish, Washington as well. So even in the further lower valley by Mount Adams in that area, beautiful area. But yeah,
How
you're
neat.
right. It's a rural area. So that was my first business experiences outside of performing in bands and in front of large audiences was also again that was a business. The auto industry was my business. My dad retired. I moved from Yakima to Seattle and continued the car industry. I had a couple of years stint as a national sales manager for a Ford Motor Company division. And I love business. I love food. And I just kept it going. So that's kind of the fun facts, so to speak, of my journey to date.
No, I love it, Stephen. I appreciate you introducing yourself and sharing those fun facts about your life. that really helps people connect to the story that we're going to have, and especially the Stuft Tots. I mean, you got to admit it's a pretty cool business to be in, a pretty delicious one at that. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited to hear, what helped to keep your focus in the world of business. Um, is there any individual, or is there any individual business that you modeled kind of your thought process when you were younger, and it kind of helped you introduce yourself into the world of business?
Yes, predominantly my father. I was junior, Stephen Junior, and my father always told me you could do whatever you want to do. Anything you ever want to do. If you want to do it, just go for it. There's no limits. And he taught me that since I started working for him at the age of 9 on his car lot, and I took that to heart. I always was taught that the harder you work, the rewards will come, right? And it's not easy. I come from a generation, like I said, I'm 60 now. I come from a generation of working for my father in the 70s, and then going on to still in the auto industry in the 80s and 90s before I took on my food passion. Was work didn't bother me in the auto industry. I sometimes worked 7 days a week for 2 or 3 weeks straight, because we had sales, and I'm managing 42 salespeople and 6 managers, and I'm not 30 or 40 at the time. I'm 20, 21, 22. I always say I grew up, I'm on my ninth life, so to speak. I've lived a lot of different lives and different journeys and different experiences in business, and some not all good. In between moving to Seattle, and my dad retiring, I talked to one of my clients, car customers, who had a couple of travel agencies, and he looked at me as an opportunity to unload them. And I never knew that travel agencies don't make any money, less than 10%. But he sold me on the sizzle, that travel anywhere for free if you own a travel agency. And this is when travel agencies were brick and mortar. You would go into it like a strip mall, and there's a travel agency. You'd have travel agents sitting at different desks and
Oh
posters of
wow,
different parts of the world, right? And they
yeah,
would come in and start talking about trips they'd like to take with their family or their business. So I bought these at 19. So I bought one in Yakima and one in Issaquah, Washington, by Bellevue, the Seattle area. And I thought, wow, I'm a businessman, right? But it didn't, like the car business. I could go out there and just sell more cars, and I could, guide my salespeople to sell more cars, and have bigger events on the weekends to sell more cars, so we could, increase our velocity of sales, and increase our income, and the success for the dealership. In the travel agencies, travel business, it's tough to say, hey, it's not that easy of a sell to say, hey, come in, and you should take your family to Hawaii for $2,000. That's not the kind of sell. It's really their decision to come in and see where they want to travel. Long story short is that was my first failure. I ended up folding those, went out of business at the age of 21, and I filed bankruptcy at that point. And I lost a lot. I had to file bankruptcy for a little over $1 million, and that was a tough pill to swallow. And at the
yeah,
time, it was real dark. I didn't know what to do. I feel like a failure. And But I woke up one morning, and I said, I jumped back into the car business. And my dad said, you know the auto industry, you can get real quick, and I did. And then I started training, and so that was my first. As I tell people, or as I teach people in business, to take the leap into their own business, if that's what they choose to do. I always say fail fast and fail often, so you can get that out of the way. Because if there's very, very few, less than 1% of successful business owners that don't have a failure story that hasn't taught them, and that they haven't learned from along the way. And that was my first one.
yeah, and that's very similar to Silicon Valley's model. So that's eerily similar to the realities that are out there with the business world, especially if you're heavily investing in the wrong things. You can sink fast, and
Exactly, and it
it's
happens very
tough.
quickly.
Yeah, my dad had a similar experience. He came out of Silicon Valley with uh, 1.5 million lost something to that degree of bad stock
Well,
exchange, and it was a
yeah,
lesson that he took into his new business. That, hey, I can't rush into relations with the wrong people, and over that lifetime, I've seen him have to deal with some legal troubles along the way with unruly people, and
sure,
it it happens when you bring individuals that are there for a different purpose other than your own, because
exactly,
ultimately if they're there to help you succeed, they're not going to detriment that business that you're both incorporated among. I
exactly,
just don't, and there's, you have to be careful. There's different interests in this world, and it's one of the reasons people can lose big on the stock market too, is ego.
exactly.
Like, it can
Yep,
happen to anyone. So
absolutely.
I think it's valuable that you talked about that, and I appreciate the honesty and talking about it, because that's an educational thing for people to hear, that, hey, be
Sure.
careful out there. You don't want to. I mean, it's like taking a loan too big that you can handle, and that interest rate just keeps building and building and building. You have to have a plan of attack in order
That's right.
to survive in the economy, because there's aspects to the economy right now that are great. So it's just a matter of finding a place within that, and
Exactly.
incorporating in that ecosystem.
Exactly. And that wasn't
Uh,
the first one, so I'm sure we'll get to that.
no, I appreciate hearing these stories, and growing up with these challenges. What do you think was the biggest challenge for you to overcome internally?
I got to tell you, I was married young. Well, not that young, but I have three kids from a previous marriage, and it was a very abusive marriage. And I recognized that. I kept thinking, well, we had kids, three kids in 3 years, and I was in the auto industry, so I'm working, 6, 7 days a week. We had the big house at the base of Mount Rainier, and it was beautiful. Indoor swimming pool. I'm 23 years old, and but it just I you know the, there is something to say about it's like the more you have, it'll make you happier. If you're in the wrong relationship, nothing can make you happy, and if you just keep burying more stuff on top of it, it just got to a point where it was either she wasn't leaving, so I had to leave. There was an incident on my ex's watch that my youngest of those three, little girl, was left alone, and uh, we had a large koi pond in the back of our home. We had an indoor swimming pool, and behind the pool room, and anyway, long story short is she fell in. Nobody knew where she was at. I'd been, separated from her, so I wasn't home. Long story short is she has survived. She survived. She did drown, and it took EMTs on a special piece of equipment to find brainwaves because they were calling her on her kitchen table. And I got a 911 call because we had pagers at the time, not cell phones. And I raced to Children's Hospital, and they did find some brain activity. So I raced there, and she was in the hospital for 13 days in the CICU or NICU, Nico. And long story short is as a blessing that she survived without any issues whatsoever. And to this day, she's 29 years old and a one of the top custom barbers in Portland, Oregon. So that's those are the things in life that any business failure, it doesn't matter anything about that. But when you talk about your own kids, and that's when it really showed me that life is short and it's precious, and follow your dreams. And that's where I really stuck in. Found with my three kids, I had moved to Portland back in 2011, 2001 after the towers fell, and I got a job at a boat dealership. I was yacht manager for a large yacht dealership, and I love boats, and I wanted to stay out of the car business, and I'd already failed in the travel business. So I started selling boats, and one of the guys that worked for me was said, "Hey, do you date?" He saw the picture of my three kids. I said, "No, I raised three kids." And he said, "Well, okay." I said, "I haven't dated in 5 years, and my kids are my passion, and my business is my passion. Whatever I'm doing, and I'm working so I can build another business, not to work for the man." And so he said, "Well, I'm on a certain dating site, and it was a big one at the time." And I said, "No, that's." I said, "Well, it's not. Doesn't interest me." And he said, "Well, I do it." And he was probably 15 years, 10 years younger than me. And he says, "Well, I get a date every single night. That's why I'm on it if I want to." And I said, "That's why I don't go out on social media. That is not my intention by any stretch." Long story short is July 4th of 2002, about 2 months before that. Um, I thought, you know what, throw caution to the wind. I posted a picture of me and the three kids on a button that we had gotten at the Rose Festival in downtown Portland, that they have every year. And I had been on, I went on several dates, I think nine to be specific. This is 23, 24 years ago. But I would never go on a date like a cocktail. I'd only go to coffee during the week, not on a weekend. And each time I left, the ladies would say, "Oh my gosh, this has been so great. Thank you. I feel like I can go tackle the world now." And each time I felt like I was a positive speaker, or a coach. You know what I mean? And it made me feel good. I mean, and I think God had me, put there, for this reason to I guess have these lunch get-togethers. There weren't dates, or coffee, and teach these ladies that what, don't sweat the small stuff. Take care of yourself. The bigger picture is what you want and what your desires are in life, and go after them. The 10th date was my wife of today, of 23 years, this December. We met at a Starbucks. 1 hour coffee turned into 4.5 hours. I had no idea it lasted that long. 2 weeks later, I proposed to her. She accepted. 3 months later, we got married. We have two daughters that are now going to be a junior and senior at University of Oregon, and then Lori took in my three kids as her own the day she met them 23 years ago. So now we have a total of five. Just became a grandfather, and Lori became a grandmother for the first time 2 days ago. Our oldest daughter, my oldest daughter, who's a dentist in Alaska, with her husband, who's a lieutenant for the fire department, had their
Wow.
first baby. So,
Congratulations.
these are the twists and turns of life, that have structured me. And Lori is my rock. She's my best friend. We are closer and closer every single day. I know that's not the same for a lot of relationships. I've had, a few. This is by far, that song "God Bless the Broken Road." If you're familiar with that, my road wasn't smooth. It had a lot of potholes, and Lori was able to bring that together, and be my yin to my yang, so to speak. Where I'm the crazy, passionate entrepreneur that wants to take on the world, and she's the even keel one, that I would call her the voice of reason. And between the two of us, um, we were, we can't be stopped. And that led me to my second failure. When I left the boat business and married Lori, my dad had concrete curbing done around his lawn. I don't know if you've ever seen permanent concrete edging, where there's this little machine that spits out this curb, and you can stamp it and make it look like brick or stone or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
to edge your lawn. I told him, I said, "Well, I left that national position, because they closed my department. So I got a large severance package, and I didn't know what I was going to do." So I went over to his house with my three kids. This is before I met Lori, about a year before I met Lori. And he had this done. And I said, "Wow." I said, how long does it take to set those bricks?" He goes, "It's not bricks. It's this little machine." He goes, "My neighbor, who's a landscaper, added this to his landscape business." I said, "Well, show me this machine." I'd never done concrete in my life. That night, I drew a logo at a pizza place where my mom and dad took us and my three kids to pizza, called it Curb Appeal, and took my severance package. And a week later, I bought the equipment and started a curbing business. And met Lori, got engaged, did our first landscape show, and we booked about $50,000 in business in 2 days. So I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I needed to get training. And so I spent almost $40,000 on used equipment, and the dealer was in Vancouver, BC. So I called him and I said, "Listen, I need training." And he goes, "Well, for another $800, I'll train you." I said, "Well, I'm not, I don't, I spent 40,000. You should be able to train me. If I drive up there, I'll drive up, just train me." He said, "$800." I said, "No." So I taught myself. YouTube was just coming into the picture at the time, and so I was able to watch some videos. And long story short is, we got successful in the business. People from Ford, who I used to work for me, asked me what I was doing, and I told them what I was doing. They wanted to do it too. So I worked with a company that had a manufacturing facility over in Asia, and I redesigned a machine. And I opened up my own factory over there and started importing my own curving machines. Then we started getting big. We sold them nationwide. We did about 1.5 million in sales in those small curbing machines. And I met a guy at a show that had a larger machine that does like road construction curbing machines that have, continuous concrete. Well, that's the beginning of my second failure. I jumped into it. I decided that a landscape curbing and a commercial curbing would marry together, and I could wrap up all the business between commercial and residential. So I opened him up a manufacturing plant down where he lived by Redding, California, and we started making these. And I started selling these all over the world. And in 20 we were over in Dubai and India and South Africa and South America and Canada and China. All of our machines were everywhere, and that's where I got my inspiration for all of my food concepts as well, because I'd eat at the craziest places and then I'd recreate those dishes while I was on the road in different countries and recreate those recipes for friends and family when I got home. So anyway, one day I woke up and I was being sued, and there was 8 of these machines that he had built that failed, and my machines were $6,000. The machines that him and I built, the large machines, were $125,000. And I tried to get a hold of him, and I hadn't been able to get a hold of him all week. And I found out he had a really bad alcohol problem. Long story short is I had to drive down to Reading. I went to my manufacturing space, and it said for lease. The landlord was there, and I said, "What's going on?" He says, "Your partner never paid, and all the machines that failed that we had shipped back to fix had all been parted out, and they were all sitting there on the floor." And I got sued for $2 million. And when I went down to do my deposition downtown Portland, I said, "Well, you need to find my partner." And they said, "We found him. He's 6 feet under in the Cottonwood, California cemetery." He was 25 years older than me, but he took us down, and big time. And I had to fight that myself. So we went down for $2 million. They repoed our cars in front of our kids' bus stop. We lost everything. And in the meantime, I had tasted this product in Brazil, because that's we had opened up another manufacturing facility in Brazil, and I was down there 3 or 4 times a year. So I was heading to South Africa, and my joint venture partners at the time, who ran the factory down there, said that they wanted to, host a dinner for me. And they brought in these 2 guys that were frying hash browns and filling them with cheese and meat and different vegetables, and then covering them with hash browns. They were frying them on both sides and then quartering them. That when I tasted that crispy hash brown with melty cheese and meat and vegetables on the inside and all the seasonings, I stopped in my tracks. All the stuff I've eaten all over the world didn't compare to the simplicity of a shredded hash brown potato with different meats and cheeses in it. And that's what I knew. I got back home and I told Lori, and she goes, "Sounds like a stuffed hash brown." I said, "I know, but it's more than that. I know there's more culture to it." And so anyway, in the midst of all this, I'm in the equipment business. We go down, they repo our cars. We wake up the next morning, and Lori's just sitting there, just distraught. And I woke up with a smile on my face, and I said, "You know what? I think God's plan was to have me go through all of this, because it's kind of it's not kind of, it's a Joseph story in the Bible, where three went into the fire and 4 came out. And his brother was ridiculed, and they left him for dead on the side of the road. And and then he turned out to be, he went into the fire and he came out, and he ended up being a king, right? After everything he'd learned. I told Lori, I said, "Listen, this is our opportunity. We have nothing else, right? We don't have any other thing holding us down." So I found, everybody has a junk drawer in their kitchen. I found $6 in coins. I walked over to Trader Joe's and bought a bag of potatoes. I found a chef on a blog online that told me because these originated actually in Switzerland. That's what I found out, that the culinary journey of this stuffed hash brown actually is a Swiss Rosti, or Rusti, Rosti, with an umlaut over the O to pronounce Rusti. That's a
Interesting.
potato that's covered with cheese. And there's one canton in Switzerland that actually filled them with cheese. Um, so I found all that out. I found out how to process the potatoes and everything else. And Lori said, "Well, we don't have any money to start a business." I said, "If everybody waited for money to start a business, nobody would be starting businesses." So that day, I started figuring out how to make the Rosties in our kitchen, or now the Stuffed Tots in our kitchen, right? And so the next day, I told her we got to get up early. We have a meeting with the Oregon Food Bank, and she goes, "Now what?" I said, "We're going to partner with the Oregon Food Bank and start feeding the homeless." She goes, "We can't afford to do that." I said, "Sure we can. It's just potatoes and cheese." And I said, in the Bible, it says first fruits, right? It's better to give than to receive first, right? And I said, this is going to be our R&D, our research and development. So we fed the homeless, and we produced these during the day. We fed the homeless twice a week for about 13 months. Every single week, we make 2,000 of these by hand, and we bring them in sheet pans down to this. It's called Clay Street Table, and we feed the homeless twice a week. We had our young daughters, who are now in college, involved as well, and we that gave us the reaction of the different flavor fillings and everything else, because I knew I wanted to launch this. And then there was the case: what am I going to do for actual work? Do you know those scooters that you take your phone and you unlock on the street and you can ride them, right, like that? They had just
Yeah.
come to Portland, and there was three of them. There was the Skip scooter, the Bird scooter, and the Lime scooter. So I became a Skip Ranger, a Lime juicer, and a Bird chaser. And what that meant was these scooters are battery operated, right? The batteries die. So they had this ad on television that they needed people to download the app, become, these positions. And so I would pick them up at night. I couldn't pick them up till after 9 o'clock, come to my house and charge them. I had 27 plugged in every single night. They weighed about 100 pounds apiece. And I
That's
live in a brownstone
crazy.
off the street. So I would lug these things 27 up, 27 down,
That's a
seven
lot of
days a week,
scooters.
7 days a week in the rain, dripping on our hardwood floors, everything else. But I made $15 a piece. Now think about it. People go, "You were an executive. You made all this money. You've made all this money." I go, "So? I have a family to support. I have a business to start." You do what it takes. There's no ego here. I'm sorry, the generation today, even my kids, it comes out. It's just the way it is with phones and everything else. The entitlement in this generation, it seems to be rampant, okay? Where people feel like they're owed something. And the only thing I'm owed is when I work hard and I work harder, I can make more. But if I don't, I don't. And so I did that 7 days a week for 13 months. I still have a journal. I wrote down every serial number, everything I was owed. And sometimes they would short me. But I had all of my detailed, they're not looking for some 50-year-old man running this like a business. They're looking for an 18-year-old college kid. And they're like, "Yeah, we may be off 20 or 30 bucks." No, no, no. If you were off a dime, I let you know. And they paid me. One week they were off $300. But that got me through. So I could work during the day and pick up these scooters at night to build this business. The Oregon State University in Corvallis, they have a food incubator in downtown Portland, one of the top in the countries. They reached out to Lori and I in March of 2018 and said, "Hey, we hear you're trying to fill a potato. We love local entrepreneurs in food and beverage. We are going to throw all of our food scientists at you. We're going to throw all of our chefs at you, and we're going to create you the product that you can launch nationally." I said, "Done," because we had nothing else going on. So we went into ideation in October of 2018 at the Oregon State University kitchen, and that's just down the street from our house in Portland. And in 2 months, we created 5 flavors. I said, as long as we can launch them at your winter tasting event, I need to know if this is a garage band or if this is a real concept that people are going to like. So at their winter tasting event, there was 50 little booths, one of them ours, and it was 50 different people that had created ice cream there, created a beverage there, created a kale chip and a seaweed chip and seaweed jerky. There was all kinds of stuff that the Oregon State program had helped these people create their own products. Ours, everybody else left. They closed at 7. At 8:30, we had a line out the door, and finally the director said, "Listen, we're closed. You got to tell these people you're going to follow up with them tomorrow because they keep eating these crispy filled hash brown bites, right, with cheese and meat in them." So I said, "Okay." So the next day, there was two local grocery store chains, Market of Choice and New Seasons, and I got 2 vendor agreements from both of them for a total of 31 stores to go on shelf. I called them and I said, "Thanks. It was great meeting both of you. I had no idea we're going to make this." They said, "We know. When you do, though, you're going on shelf in our frozen department. It's amazing." So a month later,
Wow.
in January of 2019, we're at the Oregon State University booth under the Fancy Food Show. And it's a show that happens twice a year, once in the summer, once in the winter. This was the winter one that used to be in San Francisco. We're upstairs in what is referred to as Incubator Village. And we made 750 of these by hand, froze them, put them on dry ice, and we were in our booth. Lori was baking them off as fast as possible because our line was out the 10 deep. Whole Foods walked up, their whole executive team from Austin, Texas. They took one bite, all of them did. They peeled off. I saw them huddle over there in a little powwow. Two of their executives came back. They're still good friends of mine today. They're global and the national category manager, Alex Hickey and Kelly Landro. And they said,
Wow.
the CEO said it's the most innovative potato they've ever tasted. We're launching you globally in 6 months. I said,
That's
I don't even know where I'm going to make it. They said, figure it out. So I found what's called a co-packer in Texas the next month, and we were off to the races, and that's how it all started.
wow, that's amazing. That's really amazing stuff, Stephen. And to hear that story of these execs here, how much people love the product. And it's like you said, basic ingredients that come together and culminate into an authentic story and bring people together in this environment of growth. And your 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 attitude of hustle into like hustling into this business and approaching your concept when you had that business. uh, I think that shows your drive to succeed in the market and to bring these people and these ideas together to culminate into that success that you're seeing, because you're working hard for it, and you're willing to go to those areas and explore and research and dive into the different societies around you that carry these people that have daily routines that tell you where they demand the market to be, in the grocery store especially. So I think it makes total sense what you're doing. And I love the story that you've given us so far about it. And I do have a question in it though. Is I know Jim Schmidt was a part of that story at a point, and he came in and tasted the potato himself.
He
And him
did.
being on the show, I wanted to ask you and see what your thoughts of Jim Schmidt are, and how that relationship's going to this day.
Absolutely. Jimmy's one of my closest friends, and he has opened up a wealth of connections. And life is all about connections and relationships, right? It really is. And Malcolm Gladwell has written many books, and I've read several of them. And what I found out is I'm a noticer. I notice things that a lot of people in this space don't notice in innovation. I notice things that like this, like the potato, like the filled potato. It's never been done before. And now I hold a U.S. patent, and nobody else has done it. That doesn't mean I'm a genius. It just means I had an idea to do it, and I did it. And everybody said you're crazy thinking you're going to get a patent on a filled potato, and it took 2 years and 9 revisions through the U.S. Patent Office to do it, but we did it, right? Um, Lori and I are with a couple of our partners, our creative team, Don and Mary, in Downtown Sisters, a couple of years ago, staying out there. And we were driving by and we saw this old, beautiful, fancy car out in front of this museum. And I had to stop. I'm a car guy. And it
Oh
was
yeah.
actually Mary, our creative director, that walked in and said, "Wow, what's this car?" And then she introduced us to Jimmy, and he just started telling the story about Rick Barry and all the stuff in his museum. And I said, "Wow, Mary says, Rick Barry?" And he said, "Yeah." So the condo that we were staying at, um, uh, Mary asked him if he'd come over and for dinner and try him. So at the time we were in retail, and I'll tell you why we're not in retail anymore and why we've pivoted, and that's the key word, pivot. Um, but we went to Market of Choice in Bend, found our product, brought it there, and I have a video of Jimmy, and I'll find it, I'll send it to you. I have a video of him after he tasted it with Lori and I in the background, and him giving a testimonial about the product and reaching out and calling out Rick Barry specifically.
Oh, I'd love to
But
see that.
oh my God, I'm going to send it to you. Thank you for reminding me. But
Yeah.
not only am I a noticer, but I'm a connector, and I've connected a lot of people at no charge. I mean, I've put people together that are now super successful in business just because I'm always thinking like, I think I should introduce this person to that person, right? I really have this innate sense of that. Well, Jimmy has the same thing. Jimmy and I are like brothers from another mother, different age groups, different times, but he's an amazing force. And what he's put together is what has kept us on the map to this day. And his connection with Rick Barry and what the doors that Rick Barry has opened up, and now Rick Barry's on our team, Jimmy's on our team, and what they've done is just amazing. And on top of that, between the time I met Jimmy was the time that COVID, right? COVID hits, and we are, our velocities through the roof because people are going to the frozen section. So while everybody else is
Oh yeah.
losing their job, I feel bad because our sales are going like 200% increase because people are going to the grocery store grabbing frozen products, especially potatoes. Potatoes are the second most consumed food in the world next to rice. Okay. So anything with potatoes and then you put cheese in the middle of it, game over. And like I said, it's not rocket science. Lori and I just happen to be the ones to do it first. So that happened. Well, what happened on top of that, though, was frozen logistics went through the roof, meaning the amount it cost me to ship a full truckload semi from California to the East Coast went from about 2,000 to 2,500 to over $10,000. And I got to get my product across the country to,
That's
get in all
terrible.
these stores. Then
Yeah.
all these stores want more promo fees and more slotting fees and more deductions from the distributors are coming out of our check and everything else. And I'm like, everybody's making money but us. And it's not just us. This is a growing rampant virus in this whole industry about,
Yeah.
they're two big names, KE and UNFI. You don't sell to the grocery stores. We are in almost 3,000 nationwide. You sell to the distributors and they sell. So KE and UNFI, their deductions got more and more. So our checks were getting less and less, and they couldn't explain why they were deducting. Sometimes they said, well, it was a damaged box. It was this. It was this. And I'm like, show
Yeah.
me. And they're like, and then you can't get any answers.
Yeah. They're big
And
cagey about it. Yeah.
exactly. And then all of the promo fees. Whole Foods used to charge us $11,000 for an A B promo. So A would be, as an example, the first week in November. B would be the second week of December, and then you would compare how the promo, like it was $1 off, right? You would compare how that A promo compared to the B promo. Well, all of a sudden during COVID, they doubled that. So A was 11,000 and B was 11,000. So now it's 22,000. And before they were asking us for 2 or 3 a year, now they're demanding 4 a year. That's 88,000 just for a 500 store chain. And I'm not making 88,000 in profit. I never have from Whole Foods. So I'm like, we're going to be in the hole. Well, this went on and on and on. The one thing I had though as a visionary and as a noticer is that our product, it was really big in the frozen and the retail. If I made it a little smaller, like an ounce and a half instead of 2.5 ounces, and made it more of a handheld where you can grab and go like at a 7-Eleven or a convenience store, plaid pantry, wherever you're at in this country, I knew in my head, in my mind, in my gut, that's where we need to go. Stop trying to build a brand. Because it's one thing to build a brand. It's another thing to create a category that's never been done before. Think about this. We created a category that's never been done before. People come out with hash browns. Other French fry companies come out with, different companies come out. Now there's 10 French fry companies on the shelf, right? And frozen. Well, it's like, oh, what French fry do you want? There's not what stuffed potato do you want to choose from? There's one. It's us, and we hold a patent, so nobody else can do it. So not only
Yeah.
did it take a bunch of money to build a brand, it took a ton of money to build a category that nobody's ever heard of. So now we got to, people are like, is it a potato? Is it an appetizer? This and that. I said, stop the insanity. I told Lori, we're not making any money. And we got a call from Circle K. You've heard of Circle K, the convenience store chain.
Oh yeah.
They have a 600 store sister chain that they own in the Midwest. They said, listen, we love your product. We saw you at a show. We want to try 2 in a boat. Like when you go into the hot case, you open it up and you grab wings or a piece of pizza or a torpedo or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Grab 2 of our stuffed tots in a little basket, right? And see how that does. Okay. So they called it Spud Kicks. My partners said, you're crazy, Caldwell. Focus on retail. I said, I'm going broke in retail. My gut says this. They said, well, we've got 300 years in this space. We're here to teach you because we've been doing this all of our lives. And I'm thinking, you guys are corporate. You're 9 to 5ers. You're not entrepreneurs. You're not working 7 days a week, thinking of all this stuff, waking up at 2 in the morning, going into the kitchen and trying a new filling that you just dreamt of, right? Before it leaves your head. That's what I do. That's what we do. So I said no. So anyway, I went ahead and did it anyway. We did this LTO. It's called a limited time offer. They gave us 8 weeks, 600 stores, Midwest. Get in this distributor, get a full truckload to Minnesota, Minneapolis on June 30th. So we did that. July 1st, they launched in 600 stores, two in a boat for $3.29. They said, we'll call you in September. We'll let you know how this test went. Okay. So I did everything I was supposed to do. I got the truck there. We had 2 flavors. My job's done. They launched July 1st under the name Spud Kicks. 329, two in a boat. Guess what I could do? I get a phone call 6 days later. We're sold out. Send us 2 more semis. 2 weeks later, I sent them 2 more semis. 2 weeks after that, they're sold out. Send me 2 more semis. I sent them 2 more semis. They
Man.
sell out. You know how long this lasted? This 8-week limited time offer lasted 6.5 weeks. They did almost $3 million in sales. We did just under $1 million in sales. And guess what? There were no promo fees, no deductions. I didn't have to pay for the trucking. They called it whatever they wanted. And our margins were almost 70% on that in 6 weeks. So
That's crazy.
guess that. Guess what happens then? I call a Zoom meeting with my board and my partners at the time. I open it up. There's 17 people on this screen. I told Lori, she's standing behind me in the kitchen. I'm in the back kitchen, where we eat informal dinners, a little high top table. And I said, I got an announcement. Unbeknownst to everybody that thought this wouldn't work, it worked hugely successful. None of you are in food service. Not all of you only do retail brands. So guess what? I'm pulling every single Stuft Tot. There were Stuffed Spuds at the time. I'm pulling everything off the shelf in all 3,000 stores today. I am, in effect, stopping business. So you can all go now. And that was it. And so I said, they went, what? You're crazy. You're going to go broke. You're this, you're that, you're this. I went, my gut's telling me otherwise. Well, you're not going to do this. You're going to do that. I said, you know what? Guess who I'm looking out for? Okay. I've got God first. I got my family. And I'm looking out for my family. And we're not making any money. All you guys are making all the money. We're not making a dime. It's costing us money to do this. It's not fun anymore. And I have a gut feeling that this is the way to go. So we shut down. I found a partner in Las Vegas, Nevada a year later, which was a year ago. So I don't have any income for a year. And so I'm doing odd jobs. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. But I knew, stay the course, work your tail off. This is where it needs to be. So we signed a school a year ago. Our partner gave us a brand new facility that he just bought, gave us a bunch of lines to produce our product, bought all the equipment for us. Jimmy was a great part of that with Rick Barry. Everything I'm at today, Lori and I are at today, is because of Jimmy Schmidt. I owe him everything. And Rick Barry, who he put me in touch with, who we speak probably on a weekly basis. Rick's very busy with his own celebrity. But it's one of these things that, I stayed the course. It was very hard. But guess what? I've been in positions where it's been very hard before. All that means is you don't give up. You pull up and you do it over or you pivot. And that's what I did. I pivoted. That day, I pivoted. And that's going to be the name of my book, Pivot. And I see myself, we're going to sell the company in a couple of years for a nice return. Lori and I want to help other entrepreneurs in this space, take innovation that they may not have all of the pieces. But what we want to teach people is that learn from us. Don't go bankrupt twice in your life. Fail, yes. But I did it hard. I did it really hard. But I kept getting up, and I still work 7 days a week. It's more balanced. Trust me. I'm not crazy man anymore in my 30s and 40s. But I do work 7 days a week. I'll be in the kitchen today, creating a few more flavor profiles. I think, I'd like to test in the factory. These are the times I can do it where I have my inspiration. When my family's around me, I go out, take a walk the dogs, and do my thing. But this is what I do. But my dad taught me that when I was 9 years old, that you can do anything, right? He always said, always admit 2 things. And I've taken this throughout my whole life, and I'll tell this to you and your audience. The toughest thing to admit, because of ego, is admitting you know what you don't know. I've lived by that. I've never professed, oh yeah, I know that. I know, no, I don't need your consulting, or I don't need your input, or no, I got it. I know too many people that do that, and I know right away No, you leave your ego at the door. So my dad taught me always admit you know what you don't know, and leave your ego at the door. There's no, replace ego with street smarts and common sense, and always treat customers, like they're your last customer you'll ever have. Okay, genuinely be kind, genuinely be nice. Don't be overpowering, and just genuinely want to help people. And I've never been driven by ego. I've been driven by results. And the results in my own that I look in the mirror every single day and tell myself, what are you going to do today? Okay. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's a gift. What are you going to do today? And it all has to do with my prayers in the morning first, my little yoga, exercises to stretch, a better healthy diet. I've lost over 100 pounds in the last 2 years. I
Oh,
want to make sure that I'm there
congratulations.
for my family. Thank you. I want to make sure I'm there for my family. But more importantly, I want to be there for my wife and my family and myself for a lot longer. Okay. I want to be there like Jimmy is. He's riding his bike 25 miles a day, and that guy's a rock star. I couldn't do what Jimmy does. And he's 30, 28, 26 years older than I am.
That's
But the bottom
crazy.
line is, bottom line is, um, you know, another guy told me in the car business, and it was the detail guy that detailed my dad's used cars. He would take the used cars trade-ins and go detail and bring them back so they're showroom ready. He looked at me and he says, "Hey, Junior," he says, "there's nothing to it but to do it." And I tell my kids all the time, "There's nothing to it but to do it." And I have 5 kids. The more kids you have, the more different different dynamics and different personalities you're going to have. My daughter, she's the A type. She went all the way through school. At 6th grade, she said, "I'm going to be a dentist." She graduated top in her class at University of Oregon, double majored, and she top of her class in dental school at OHSU. My next daughter is a barber, very driven. My son, he's the oldest. He's had some times where he wants to do stuff. We tried to get him in the food business. Not really him. He wanted to do his own thing, and he's still looking to do his own thing. He's got some things going, but he's always struggling, and I pray for him. But he likes his own time too. He doesn't like to. I'm not going to say he doesn't like to work. I think his perception of work is a lot different than my perception of work. He likes his me time. He likes promoting on social media that he's done 20,000 steps today. Well, the only way you can do that, unless you're working on your in your earbuds making money, is not working. But I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying it's a whole different dynamic today. And it's fewer and far between that I meet people, that I run into people that have the same, that are on the same age, that have the same, work ethic. And again, I'm not special. It's just the way I was raised. And if you want something, you just go get it. Balance will follow. I mean, you can always balance it, but it's not a
Yeah,
9 to 5. It's not a noon to 3. It's not a 10 to 2. It's every day, 7 days a week. It's not
it's a
the
lifestyle.
destination, and I didn't write this, and it's an old cliche. It's the journey, and the journey are these steps of box checked, that here and then here and then here, and it's just putting in the time, and it's just one of these things, you guys, that I just can't stop building, thinking about, trying new innovations of fillings. Where they can go. They're in school districts now because of their clean label. 5 ingredients or less. They're certified gluten free for all the celiac communities nationwide. Our vegetarian ones are now kosher. Our plant is kosher. I mean, it's just amazing where God's put us to this day, and it was because of that time noticing Jim's car in front of his museum, and
Well,
that's the story, my friends.
Steven, this has been great. I know you have to get out of here soon, but I do want to ask two things. First
Go for
off,
it. Go
do
for it.
you are you okay with coming back to the show at some point if we have maybe Rick Barry on the show with us and have a
Absolutely.
conversation? I think it'd be great to have you two together to talk on your frame of reference between you two and also his life journey and so you can hear that too live and maybe talk to
Absolutely.
him. Um,
Absolutely. Love it.
and then the other aspect I wanted to ask you was just a real brief question on the industry of today. Do you think what do you think the younger generations are going to find the most success driving towards education wise for business ahead in the next 10 years?
I got to tell you, it's not going away. So AI. There's good and there's bad. There's really bad and there's really rabbit holes that these kids can go down. And I say kids, anybody younger than me. But I look at using what I didn't have. I didn't have the internet. I didn't have cell phones when I first started my journey, and at a young age in business. But utilize what you've got today. But don't shortcut. There are no shortcuts. AI might be a shortcut that says, "Hey, write my life story. Here's my birth date. Here's my challenge that I've been through. Hit send, and then come back an hour later, and I have a book written." That's not reality. Okay, it's about using it as a tool to assist you, but you putting in the time and the work and using tools that are now so readily available. But learn, okay, take classes. If this is the space you want to get into, do your research. Bounce it off other people. Reach out to food incubators like the Oregon State University program. Run ideas by them. I mean, uh, you know, but in today's technology, I'm telling you right now, if there was one more of me or five more of me, I could be a multi-millionaire, billionaire. I know it. And I'm not saying because I want all that money. I'm saying what that money can do for communities and for organizations like No Kid Hungry, where 15 million children don't even know where their next meal is coming from in this country. But I have five that never missed a meal, even when I was broke, right? I know how to take a potato and make it taste like filet mignon, okay? Because that's what you do. But I mean, that's what that money can do. That's what I mean. So when we sell for a nice multiple, yeah, we'll be able to pay off bills and do some fun stuff. But it's really about giving back to your communities. And we're looking at it on a national level, as an example, with No Kid Hungry, and make sure that we can continue to speak out to these communities about, why in the US of A, why are these kids and why are these seniors, eating Alpo, right, out of
Yeah.
cans, right? That's the problem. But you know what? People say capitalism is horrible. I only want to make enough to survive. You know what I mean? I'm telling you right now, I've got another book idea, and I've got another. I already see it. I manifest it. I speak to it. I'll be on stage in the next, probably in less than 5 years, and I'll be speaking to thousands of people, and I'll be in my story to them. And I've already registered it, and I've already got a trademark on it. So, but it's bottom line is I'm going to be nationwide in front of thousands of people, teaching them to just don't settle for survival. And that's what I pivoted into. So I want to teach the young, the medium, the old. You still have an opportunity, whether you've lost it or you've never even tried, right? Somebody
Yeah.
once told me, this isn't my statement, but somebody once told me, some of the top ideas for innovation and invention are in the cemetery, because people were too afraid to share it with somebody and they took it to their grave. That is the biggest, I think, sad part about, there are real people that aren't going to screw you, but there are people that want to screw you. Okay. It's just really finding the people like the Jim Schmidts and the Rick Barrys and the people that are now on our team because of them, that we can collaborate. I've got other products we're going to be doing. I'm not going to talk about them now, but it's just,
No, no.
this is fun to me. But the end game is to make sure that we can get the word out and either help people who are struggling, who just don't believe in themselves, or it's generational, right? It's generational. I'm a country music fan. Lori and I went and saw Post Malone and Jelly Roll about a month or so
Nice.
ago in Portland. And great, love them both.
Great
Jelly Roll's
choice.
story is generational, right? He is like the fourth or fifth generation of drugs, prison time, everything else. He broke that generational curse. There's just too many people out there with generational curses that were brought up. I was brought up in a middle income home. We barely could make bills. I was on the road touring with a national band, famous band. I was touring with them, and my sister called me at the hotel and said, they're trying to sell Dad's house, our family house. I said, what? And they were trying to repossess it. And my dad couldn't make the mortgage payments, and he was too proud to tell me. So I sent all my money that I was banking on to buy some real estate, and I sent it to him and got him caught up. It's just what you do, but that's generational, right? It's just making enough. I'm not knocking anybody who has a job or anything else, are doing what they're doing. If they're comfortable doing it, fantastic. I'm not here to say, hey, go make millions, just stop getting by. It's the people that have a
Just know your
desire to
worth.
do that. Have a
Hmm.
desire to do that. A lot of jobs, to be honest with you, what they don't teach you in school, they teach you math, they teach you English, they teach you history. They don't teach you how to go out and be an entrepreneur. They don't teach you how to fail fast and fail often. They don't teach you. They don't bring people in like me that have lost up to $5 million in a couple of different bankruptcies and a bunch of different bad decisions, right? That have taught us along the way until you meet people like the Jim Schmitz and the Rick Barrys, right? They don't teach you that in school. They teach you how to go get a job. You know what that stands for? Just
God,
over
job
broke.
just over broke.
Okay. I mean, a job, and I don't mean a job like, at Microsoft or Intel, you're making $1 million a year, or you're even making 40 grand a year. I'm saying, I'm saying settling. Okay. Because I'm talking about the people that believe it's because their dad and mom didn't make it, so they don't deserve to make it. Their grandparents didn't make it. Their mom and dad didn't make it. They don't deserve to make it. You can break that chain, buddy. Everybody
Yeah.
out there, you can break that chain. It's just a rethinking and a reprogramming that you can literally do, like my dad taught me when I never went to college. I was the only one that barely made it out of high school. I took all those classes to graduate two years early. My GPA in high school was a 1.62. I just didn't, school wasn't for me, right? It's about the street smarts and the common sense that my dad taught me, right? About being aware, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of somebody in a room. Then when you walk in a room, whether it's at a big party or just, a Jack in the Box or wherever you're at, being aware of your surroundings and being aware that there's opportunities around every corner. You gotta be able to see them, right? And even if you don't take them, at least have the confidence to have somebody, a mentor. Okay, I had mentors. That's one of the most important things you could do in business is have a mentor. And I don't mean people who were giving it to them, who had a trust fund baby and who went to Yale and who that's generational wealth, right? Not generational broke like I came from. Um, it's talking to the people that can literally be your mentor and say, you know what, that's good, but I would suggest finishing school and taking these kind of classes. Call me in a year, or I would say, sounds like it's a great idea. I'd like to help you, and maybe take it and steer it this way a little bit. Maybe I can help you a little more and cut some of these corners, right? And at least let them know whether they do it or not. That if you've got the passion, there's people out there that can help you get to the next level. And that's what we want to do. And the reason why we're Stuft Tots, right? We have a logo and a brand and everything else, but we don't promote Stuft Tots. We just signed a deal with a national egg company we're going to be in 40,000 stores in the next year on shelf. And you'll never know it's Lori and I because it's not our name. It's our
Wow.
product. It's our patent. But guess what? That's not us. This is not an ego thing where we're saying, hey, look what I built. Most people will say, oh my God, I started this company. Guess what? You know
Yeah.
what their bank account says? Now you have insurance you have to pay. Now you have sales you have to meet. Now you have cost of goods you've got to pay. They're all
Hmm.
excited about I started this business, but behind them, because it's their ego, right? Oh my God, I started this business. Isn't that cool? They hit their head at night going, oh my God, I started a business. How am I going to
Yeah.
raise money? How am I going to pay for it? How am I going to do that? Oh God, I didn't know liability insurance. Oh my God, somebody sued me. Oh my God, they tripped on my bike that I rent. Okay. I mean, none of this, they don't think about this. They go, oh my God, I own a business. You know what we're doing? You're not hearing from us. I haven't posted on social media about where we're going in a year and a half. I have 8,500 LinkedIn followers on LinkedIn. I'm a premium member. Lori and I are. You haven't seen a post because guess what? It's nobody's business. I'm not here to, there's too many people on social media that say, oh my God, I did this now. My company now just did this and we sold for 5 million. We did this. And you see all the comments. Oh my God, you're so great. You're so great. Oh my God, you're so great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know what I mean? I just want to
Hmm.
throw up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not about that. It's about helping other people. And to me, silence is, guess what? I bet the people that I closed that lid on when I got rid of them all a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, actually now, you know what they're thinking? I guarantee you they know what they're thinking. They haven't seen any posts from us. They haven't seen, I guarantee you they all believe we went out of business. I guarantee it. And then when we
Yeah.
sell, guess what? That'll be national attention. Then they're going to be calling. hey, what's going on? I knew you could do it. I knew you could. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's no time for that. There's only
No.
time for keeping your nose to the grindstone, helping the people that have helped you along the way, reaching out to help others while you're doing your own business to make sure that you're giving back to the community, right? And being the good steward in business or in life, your next door neighbor, right? Be aware,
Absolutely.
just be aware of people and what they're going through. Empathy is what I try to teach my kids. Always put yourself in somebody else's shoes. It's not about you, right?
I think that's a great place to stop us for the interview, Stephen, because I know you had to head out, and I don't want to
but
take
this is
too
so
much
important.
time,
But you know what? I appreciate that, Cameron. This was so
we're
important to me, and you got me talking. And I'm telling you right now, you guys, I could talk. I literally could talk about this all day long, and I wish I had more time. But I'm telling you, I think we got it.
yeah, and I do have someone in the future. I'll reach out to you, but I have some ideas that I think you'd enjoy another conversation with a guest who's got a similar background, man, and I think we have a good journey ahead of us. You have a great journey, a little bit more of a crispy potato one, but I love.
Well, you know what I
love
always say? I always tag it with, and that's my email too. Stay crispy, my friends.
I love it, Steven. It's been a real pleasure today, and I know we were a little pressed on time, but I think we've got a lot of good information out, and I really
Oh, buddy.
appreciate you taking the time.
No, it always, you know what? It's never rushed. It's always perfect. So whatever we did and whatever time we did, it was perfect timing anyway.
I love it, man. I love it.
All right, you guys be blessed. Have a great day.
Thanks, you,
Thanks,
Steven. Take care.
Great meeting you all. Talk to you soon.
Likewise.
Bye.